Hello, everybody, and it's really great to be back at the TSNET conference, even under the current circumstances. Andrea, thank you and your team for the organization and for inviting us to be here. And thanks to everybody attending for choosing this session. We're really looking forward to the discussion and your comments on our work. So I'm Tamsin from the Impact Trust, and with me are Geordie and Anne, who both wear two hats, the Impact Trust and Roots to Resilience. And what we're going to be presenting today is our work with Roots to Resilience, which is now an independent social enterprise incubated by the Trust. More specifically, we'd love to talk about the immersive and eco-pedagogical approaches that we have been taking to provide transformative learning experiences, which we believe are essential not only to driving sustainable development, but also to promoting environmental literacy and global citizenship goals. So our work is really based on research and programmatic interventions we started in 2014 and is founded really on notions of ecological citizenship as defined by Dobson, here nicely articulated by the Ecological Citizens Project. And really the notion of an ecological citizen is quite different to one who simply evidences pro-environmental behavior. Both may be driven by knowledge and concern for the environment and our impact on it, but the former is more specifically driven by an awareness and an acceptance actually of the fact that what is good for me as an individual is not necessarily good for me as a social collective. And fundamental to that is really a belief in environmental and social justice and of the responsibility to act according to those. So within this goal, our programs are informed really by, or perhaps require, the use of critical eco-pedagogies and transformative experience learning that also look at a rights-based approach, how to make use of the head-hand-hearts method of developing eco-literacy, and also at sociocultural learning theory and place-based pedagogy. We believe these programs encourage learning on three dimensions, really: an understanding of self, and most especially self versus the other or others, a change in or revision of self-beliefs and convictions as to what is right, and changes in behavior in terms of how those ideas and values manifest in action. So crucial to the program is really a notion that learning is mediated by social interaction and engagement in real world challenges, and that the frame and context of place, history, nature, and culture really encourages deep understanding and a sense of belonging that invites active engagement. So really here is a summary, if you like, of the transformative learning model, which is adapted from Singleton. If anybody does want the reference, I'm happy to share. But our programs really strive to take students outside the classroom and make use of a context of place as a framework for authentic learning, letting them see and experience the world in new ways. So to reflect on how these manifest, I'm going to hand over to Geordie, who's going to take us through some actual examples.
Thanks, Tamsin. So I'd like to share with you some of the work that we are doing to build the value of place into our learning encounters, recognizing that the way in which place not only illustrates or embodies the principles of many of our concepts, but also that it influences the affective dimension, or what we call the orientation to learning. The place illustrated in this shot is the Yonkazok Mountain Reserve. For youth who have not experienced by navigating or being on foot, gradient terrain, geomorphology, and then the understanding of things like the water cycle, the concept of the catchment or watershed, runoff, how wetlands work as sponges. All these become words or notions that are simply internalized cognitively, entirely differently from having embodied experience of them. For many working class kids, even local travel is utterly restricted. And so experiential encounters with learning of the natural world does not happen. But there's also another dimension to a place like this. And here is what we place equal focus on at Roots to Resilience. And that is that being in this place offers up the serenity of perspective, or the experience of a world so much bigger than, and yet including you as participant in it. And it's this experience of a wider belonging that we feel is so valuable in building connected citizens. In relation to understanding the global context, An example of how we use place is in developing a feeling for the scale of temporal change in the Anthropocene. In our presentation of content, we actually start with reflecting on deep time, 4.6-kilometer walk, being interspersed with somewhat theatrical presentation of events that unfolds during the Earth's development and the appearance and shift in life forms, the growing complexity of the world, and especially the way in which living entities start to affect the very conditions for life. And this speaks to our later work on complexity and systemic thinking, and of course, the way in which human life affects the very conditions for life on Earth now. So the physical activity and the wilderness location of our deep time walk are key aspects of the pedagogy. Firstly, the walk is carefully choreographed so that particular events in our history coincide with a chosen view or a terrain. Secondly, the long periods of silent, meditative walking during the Earth's earlier development contrast with the speed of evolution over the most recent 300 million years, and shown by the frequency of the narrator's interruption of the walk as events in our deep history unfold. And how dramatic and powerful is the feeling when, after the long, at times strenuous walk, we realize that our time on Earth as humans amounts to simply the last half a step. This embodied learning provides a real aha moment, and it's the stimulus for exploring the content of the Great Acceleration and the Anthropocene. Another aspect of our pedagogical approach is discovery learning, mediated by the more knowledgeable other in Vygotskian terms. And here, for example, students explore a river both through the physical senses, slippery rocks, the color and character of flowing water, the number and variety of living organisms, and so on. Through investigation not only of a single point, but along a river reach, a mediated conversation, through combining the observations and the measurements we make, our discussion then co-creates an understanding of system complexity and the understanding of spatial and temporal dimensions of all systems, as well as the intricacy of processes and interactions in the living and non-living elements of systems. But we take that further into experience. Physically locating oneself within the nature of places, we feel, is a path to building the multiple literacies, or the ways of reading the world, as Paulo Freire explains in his view of transformative, of critical pedagogies. Our emphasis is what students bring to learning, using different ways of reading the world to build this collective understanding. Our educational encounters also provide a holding space, an invitation that is without judgment, facilitating openness in our participants to what the environment has to offer. Here, this openness was facilitated within a group of teachers at an elite school to engage the other, to move out of the bubble of a segregated life, to connect with a more inclusive sense of belonging. The pedagogical approach emphasizes critical engagement with one's own and others' ways of knowing. A key thread also of our sustainability education program is using systems thinking as a vehicle for thinking about both the nature and resilience of the natural world, of which we are all part, and how resilience requires complexity and diversity, as well as for developing a personal response to this, a commitment to act with impact as an ecological citizen. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Anne, who will speak a bit more about our pedagogy of resilience in preparing young adults for the world of work.
Thanks, Geordie. Expanding on the idea of developing an ecological citizen and using place-based pedagogies and pedagogies of hope, I would like to share with you the work we do on our Resilient Futures program. Whilst primarily a career development program with a mandate to develop personal resilience, we believe that resilience must include wanting to live and do better, live and do differently, wanting to be and identify as an ecological citizen. Our offering is thus a journey starting with developing self-awareness, knowing the self, and then situating the learning within community. A system thinking approach to examining the problems and possibilities for work and livelihoods within the context of community leads to the realization of resilience as a property of community, therefore discovering that their resilience grows stronger when their community resilience grows stronger. In our Resilience Futures program, we have added 3 additional components over and above the place-based transformative experiential learning that Geordie has already shared. That is being inspired, finding my sense of agency, and taking community action. The first about being inspired is being inspired by local heroes, people who model ecological citizen in the businesses or jobs that they do. Here, dialogic and collaborative learning is center stage. And what we focus on is creating opportunities for the participants to network and connect with the role models who are building resilient futures in their community. The second involves a process of discovering my why, my purpose and passion. At the high end of Bloom's hierarchy, a pivotal moment in the journey is the act of creating, of bringing knowledge to bear in recognizing a future path. This is an introspective immersion where participants use speed rapping and art to unlock what has been ignited in them, followed by an experiential assignment to apply their findings and see how they can add value to the community whilst learning more about their purpose. In doing this, they discover their agency. The third component is action learning. Again, located in our constructivist perspective on pedagogy, taking community action leads to discovery of passion and how change is possible. Seeing how they are able to make a positive impact in their community is particularly energizing. Together with their awareness of the global context, their greater self-awareness, and their skills to observe, problem solve, communicate, and execute tasks, they take purposeful, personal community action. We believe learning through these immersions, mediated by Roots to Resilience facilitators, with mentorship from the social enterprise role models and peer-to-peer coaching, is the social constructivist pedagogy that has delivered such a strong self-awareness and agency. Participants leave not only having gained skills and confidence in their ability, but graduate with hope for a brighter future for themselves and their community.